Most of social media are tipping Haaland as the best captain for Gameweek 8. Kane puts in a stronger case than most think, and you'll see that in the stats throughout the video. Haaland and his teammate De Bruyne play Wolves away from home, whilst Kane plays against Leicester, and he's the only player on the shortlist this game week to have the home advantage. De Bruyne is the only midfielder on the shortlist. He gets an extra point per goal scored, and a clean sheet point potential as well. Let's kick things off with the non-penalty stats per 90 minutes from this and last season combined. I would use this season alone, but it's too small of a sample size to refer to. Haaland's German league numbers have been converted with a 0.83 multiplier. That's because the Premier League is roughly 17% more difficult from an attacking perspective. Haaland absolutely dominates the return points. It's the expected numbers that are better at projecting future return points than actual return points themselves, and he still wins that by 0.5. Moving on to the set pieces, Haaland's on penalty duties for City, which means De Bruyne isn't, and Kane's a dedicated penalty taker for Spurs. De Bruyne takes direct free kicks, indirect free kicks and corners, whilst Kane only takes direct free kicks. Whilst they're less frequent, penalties are more valuable than indirect free kicks and corners, so Kane comes out on top. Let's take a look at the probability of each player scoring or assisting. These odds are based on the assumption that each player plays 90 minutes. We'll review the expected minutes later on in the video. Haaland's got the best anytime goal scorer odds with 60%, and Kane trails by just 4%. Kane's ahead of him on the anytime assist odds by 7%, and they've both got a 70% chance of returning. Whilst they've got the same probability of success, Haaland's got the slightly better weighted odds because you get more points for a goal than you do for an assist. Something to remember is that these odds are based on a player playing a full match, which Kane is more likely to do than Haaland. The points projections take this into consideration. Kane wins on Fantasy Football Fix by 0.8 and Fantasy Football Scout by 0.5 as well. By comparing the opposition's defence, we can see that Kane has a much easier fixture than the City duo. These stats are from this and last season combined. They consider home and away matches. Don't forget that Leicester have to travel to Spurs, whilst Wolves have the home advantage. To be fair, Leicester's expected goals conceded figure isn't much worse than Wolves, but you've got to remember they had Schmeichel in goal last season, now they've got Ward in goal, and that's probably why they're underperforming their underlying stats this season. Wolves are overperforming their defensive numbers. They've conceded the least amount of goals in the whole league this season with just 4. Leicester have conceded 4 times the amount of that figure with 16, which puts them 19th in the league. Leicester have slightly higher clean sheet odds than Wolves, but it's not much to go by. City have a much more powerful attack than Spurs, so it's understandable, but Kane does have the easier fixture. Before we draw up a conclusion, let's carry out a quick risk assessment. All 3 players featured for 90 minutes in the Champions League midweek. Kane's had an additional day and a half worth of recovery, and you can see that in the expected minutes. If you remember at the start of the season, if Haaland played 2.5 days before a fixture for 90 minutes, we would write him off, but it looks like his fitness has picked up. He's got 78 expected minutes. If anything, this section's just to spot any problems, and all of the players pass the checks. There's not much to split the 2 forwards this game week. You could say it's form versus fixture, but Kane has got both of them. I do prefer him this game week for the reasons that I've included on the screen. Thanks for watching. I've published my final wildcard team video. It contains my captaincy matrix, fixture difficulty ratings, and points projections from FPL Review. Make sure you check it out if you've not already.